It's spooky season. This video won't come out until November. Welcome to part 4. I'm talking to you like you're a toddler. Welcome to part 4 of Season of the Witch, where I make a witch costume based on each of the seasons of the year over the course of a year. Year and a half. It is technically spring in Australia right now. For 75% of you, chances are you're in the Northern Hemisphere and it is actually autumn for you. But yeah, I got a little bit delayed with this one due entirely to my own indecisiveness. You may notice from my previous witches, I have done winter, spring, and summer. None of them are very traditional, and I was saving the traditional witch, the one you think of, hats, brooms, black dresses, for fall. But as it got closer, I just felt really compelled to instead make like a really dirty swamp hag witch. And I couldn't decide. So it's been 6 months, and now I have made a decision. We're making both! Yay! I think that me in 3 to 4 weeks' time is sincerely going to regret me saying this. But yes, we're making 2 full costumes for this one. Why not? So I think we're gonna call this one Classic Witch. You know, we're going to do a woolen black hat with some sort of seasonal trimmings on it. We're going to do a long sleeve black dress with a patterned corset on it, nice full skirt. And of course, we're gonna make a broom. Cute, lovely, great. So for the Swamp Witch, lots of distressed fabric, some weathering on there. Is my nose ring aligned? Feels like it's off. Probably a hood. I'm going to make some hair extensions. And my favorite part of this design, if I can pull it off, I'm gonna try and make these claws. These are made by a professional in Korea, so mine will not look as good. So I have some materials already and others I have ordered. Some this morning, still being indecisive. And there are some other things that we need to go out and get. So let's go shopping. We're not actually doing the shopping now. We're gonna do that tomorrow. I need to go and embarrass myself at a dance class now, okay? Okay, bye. I went to my favorite fabric store, the fabric store, because they have the best linen bias binding, which I needed for the hat. Oh, what's this black linen? It seems like it makes sense, but it actually doesn't. Yeah, I'm genuinely tempted by this. Oh my God, and Christmas decorations. Okay, these purchases make more sense. I'm back. I'm so tired. What is it about shopping that just, it takes it out of me? We got some stuff and I need to explain. First of all, tiny potion bottles. I don't know if you can see them because of the reflection, but we're gonna put little potions in there to put on a belt. I'm very excited. I don't normally do this level of detail of accessories. Are you impressed? I got this really nice black linen fabric. It's not for this. So me of 4 weeks ago had such high hopes for my productivity and foolishly thought that I could make not 1, but 2 side quest projects during this already ambitious endeavor. Spoiler, I didn't have time. So you'll just have to stay tuned to see what I'm making with that lovely linen and also the silk that I purchased. Hopefully next time, but who knows, I get distracted really easily. So the dress we are doing, hang on, I'm coming back. I made this before I started my channel and I put so much work into it. All of the buttonholes are hand sewn with silk thread, but I kind of hate it. I don't know, it doesn't feel very me. We're gonna dye this black and use this as our base, okay? Don't get mad at me. I have other stuff. We've got a lot of stuff that we're making. And so yeah, we're cheating a little bit with this one and hopefully making something I'll wear more often. So let's actually start on something, shall we? Corset. It's the Strawberry Thief. I picked this fabric up in Japan like 18 months ago, specifically for this project. I saw it and I was like, that's my autumn witch. I have a pattern as well. I'm gonna use a real pattern. I bought this one absolutely ages ago. I'm gonna be a little gremlin and I'm just gonna cut this straight out because I just don't have it in me to trace it out. Oh, they're all individually sized pieces. Yes! I just realized I cut out a size 14. I just saw the 10 and I was like, cool, these are all of the size 10 pieces. I didn't even notice that all of these pieces are the same and the size is in this tiny little font here. Okay, so that one, not that one. Did I mention that I'm rather tired today? All right, these are my pattern pieces. Looks simple enough except for all of the stitching lines. And here is my plan. This pattern, the hair in my mouth. This pattern needs an outer, an interlining, and a lining, and I don't want to do a mock-up, but I really do want it to fit. This is what I'm gonna use for my interlining. I'm gonna cut these out first and then use that as my like mock-up idea. And if that seems to be fitting, then we can go ahead and use this just as the interlining, I think. But yeah, this is like a super heavy duty pink denim that I've used for other mock-ups. It's a curtain from IKEA. So let's go. I just realized this can't be a transition because I won't have my hand in the right spot. Anyway, haha, I finally fixed the auto exposure so it's not white when I do this. Anyway, that's all of our pieces. Let's stitch them together and get an idea of the fit. I forgot we were doing a transition and my hands are full. Okay, so it's pretty good. I'm glad I went down a size because this gives me room to like lace it in. Rather than lacing it at the back, I've just kind of pinned a piece of fabric to simulate the gap that would be there from lacing. Only thing is, the curve of my waist is like a centimeter higher than that. I'm just gonna shape the underarm a little bit so that this can move up a tiny amount and just sit a little bit better. I think, ow, pin in my finger. I can't, hang on. Oh, did I get it? That looks like about what the pattern has on it. I also only did our boning lines on one side of this. So I'm gonna do that on the other, and then we can take this apart, transfer those to the pattern, and cut out the rest of the pieces. Yay! I'm trying to remember how I decided on this shape, and I'm pretty sure I just eyeballed it. This is the first time I've actually transferred boning channel lines to the fabric, and this is the best way I could think to do it because I don't have transfer paper. But it's also the first time I've understood how this works because you draw it on the interlining and sew from the wrong side, and the lining goes on after. Amazing. I've previously sewn through all 3 layers by attaching the lining first, and this is way neater.
Alf and I just got back from a walk. Once again, this is my fault for putting things in his spot.
This is the lining fabric, by the way. I didn't say that, but it matches the bias binding. And stop! Haha. All right, so we have all of our pieces prepped. We've got the interfacing attached to the outer, and this is our interlining. So we're gonna stitch each of these pieces together individually so that this is one whole piece. And then we will do our boning channels, and then we will attach all of these seams together and put our boning in. Good? Yes. The sewing started out okay, but even though I am definitely threading my machine properly and I changed the needle, I kept having issues with the machine pulling the thread up when I started stitching or doing the first few stitches and then failing to sew. So I spent the morning taking the machine apart and cleaning and adjusting everything, only to have the machine do the exact same thing. And then the thread broke, nearly taking me with it. Look how sad that posture is. Eventually, I think I just reset all the tension settings, picked a random spot on the dials and started sewing, and what do you know? For some reason that worked. I thought this would look cool, but the window was open, so it just looks janky. All right, well, that took most of the day. Let's join them up. Pretty! Although I will say, am I crazy? Boning goes in here, and I'm stitching some bias binding onto here. Aren't I gonna have to stitch into the actual boning? Like, there's gonna be hard boning there. This one in particular that I'm now realizing I forgot to stitch, but like, you're supposed to put boning here, and if there's boning here, how am I sewing bias binding over it? How? Anyway, I'm gonna fix that one, and then let's do the same for the lining, shall we? Let's go. Yay! Focus. Yeah. They look so pretty. Also, I realized I had to add straps, so that has been done. So I think the next step is going to be... I can do this. Oh, I got it. The next step is going to be attaching the lining pieces to these on this seam, then flipping out the right way, and then we have to cut these ones so that we have more little panels at the bottom, and then we attach a bias binding all along the bottom. I'm a little worried about that because I'm going to attempt to do mitered corners for the bias binding, and I haven't done that before, but let's give it a go. Oh, how good is ironing? It was around here that I realized that my bias tape was actually twice the width of what was recommended in the pattern, hence those sections where I was like, how is there gonna be room for the bias binding? Also, yeah, this took ages to do. Now it is time to press them and then whip stitch them on the other side. But this is how much bias binding I have left. Womp womp. It's just like that much short. Luckily I have this exact fabric here, and while I would prefer to not waste fabric by making bias binding, I don't even know if the fabric shop has any more of this because I bought this quite a while ago. So yeah, we're gonna have to make some more at some point. Seeing as I had a bunch of whip stitching ahead of me, I decided to get a start on dyeing the dress because that was gonna involve a bunch of waiting around anyway. I weighed my fabric, measured out the dye and dissolved it in boiling water, added salt to our warm dye bath, and added the pre-soaked dress because I'm learning and doing things properly. And then it was an afternoon of hand sewing. Oh no, that's the worst. Oh. Good job, Alfie. Yeah, that's you. Good job. I have to go give him a treasure. It's pretty good. Yeah, there's a little bit of patchiness in some spots, but pretty happy. Putting boning in is pretty tedious and takes a really long time, so instead, let's enjoy Alf enjoying a sunbeam. Aww. Once all the boning was in, I sewed the top bias binding until I needed to make more, which actually wasted very little fabric and was pretty painless to make, so I don't know what I was worrying about earlier. Alright, we have all of this sewn on, so now all I need to do is fold this over and whip stitch that in place. And we need eyelets down this row here, and then down here. I may regret saying this, but I'm gonna hand sew the eyelets because I could do grommets for sure, but I kind of feel like it would ruin the vibe of it. And also whenever I do those grommets, one side is really sharp and so it won't be reversible and I don't want it catching on like whatever dress I have underneath. So I'm gonna do that in the evenings alongside this project rather than spending all my daylight hours on it. So I think it's time to get started on our witch's hat. So my plan for the hat was to use some leftover wool knit fabric reinforced with horsehair canvas, so I tried this adhesive spray that I only recently learned exists. My first test was 2 layers of horsehair sewn together, and then just to be sure I also tried a single layer of horsehair. I'm not using fusible interfacing because A, none of them are stiff enough, and B, I've only found ones that are fusible on one side, and I don't want the hat to be all puffy. The single layer turned out smooth but quite floppy, while the double layer was rigid but bubbly. I felt very clever for realizing I could use my hat to base the pattern on. So if the hat comes out to like there, that seems pretty good. Admittedly, it got a little bit trickier when we got to the inner brim. Not my best method. Also, I realized that it needs to be big enough to fit over my wig. So for some reason I kept the wig on and consequently got my big head in the way of the camera, but I'm making the point of the hat now. It's a little bit tall. Ha-ha! Got like a little bit of a gap happening, so I'm just gonna add like an inch straight down brim to this one here, add seam allowances, and voila! I like how floppy it is. Oh yeah, in the end I decided to do a single layer of horsehair because I realized that the stitching the 2 layers together was making it bubbly and also too rigid. But the single layer of horsehair canvas was also too floppy and also really difficult to position correctly, so I compromised by adding another layer of stiff interfacing to the hat brim. Unfortunately, it turned out I only had scraps left, so I had to sort of Tetris it together. The wool layer is also difficult to position, I think mostly because it wasn't a perfect circle, but the good thing is you have a bit of time to reposition it before the glue sets. Then I just did the same thing for the cone and stitched it together. It was a teensy bit of a battle to turn it out the right way, but we made it. Miraculously, the pieces actually fit together, and I basted them together before machine stitching, and thankfully my machine decided to behave during this and the thread didn't break even once. It's really hard to see, but I also sewed bias binding around the inner and outer brims. I am beyond thrilled at how well this hat is going, and I used this trick that I just learned from watching one of Grace Duval's video where she made a quilt on how to join up the bias binding. I sewed it down first with it folded at a 45-degree angle, see that's it on the outside, and then when you come through to follow it up, you overlap. When it folds over, it'll fold in neatly when I do it, but basically it neatly folds in with this little shape there. And so the bulk is distributed and you don't end up with a big chunky bulky join. So good, I love learning new techniques like that. It just looks so much cleaner. Oh, I love it so much. I couldn't tell you why I decided that this hand sewing happens during daylight hours, but here we are. I remembered I bought millinery wire at some point, so I sewed that into the brim, you know, like a real hat. I am obsessed with this hat. It's so cute and it feels very me. I put it on and Thomas was like, that really suits you. And I was like, right? How do I wear this without looking like a costume? Help. I really want to be able to wear it just plain black. So we're gonna do some trimmings, but we're gonna make sure that I can undo them. So I'm probably just gonna sew everything on, what was that? In a way that they can be snipped off. That's what I was doing. I've got some jute rope. I have some synthetic moss. I hit myself with it. I have this really lovely green shawl that I picked up from the fabric store in Wellington. This is actually for our swamp witch that we're gonna do soon. But I thought rather than me going and buying some ribbon, which is gonna be very expensive and I'd have to leave the house, I'm just gonna chop some of this off to use as a like ribbon trim. Oh, I can't, it's probably gonna interfere with my top-down camera. To be safe, I'll take it off. I love it so much, I'm so happy. Do we want the rope on there as well? I guess it adds like a rustic air to it. I'm just realizing that I have no idea how to trim a hat. Like, where does the pine cone go? I decided I hate the pine cone. No, it looks stupid. Only after trying and failing to make a general mushroom shape did I realize that a reference image would be a good idea, so I chose these pink mushrooms because I wanted to paint the mushrooms pink to match the stays. I have no idea if these are real mushrooms though, but I also don't think it's possible to prove that pink mushrooms don't exist. I used those little round top jewelry making pins, I cannot think of what they're called right now, to add little anchors, also the wrong word, to the top and bottom of the mushrooms so that I can sew them onto the hat when they're all dry and painted. I'm gonna try and hold this up. Good morning. We're outside because Thomas is in a meeting and his headphones haven't been working, so it's too loud to film in my room. Oh, it's too bright out here, hang on. Our little mushrooms are drying. They're still gonna need probably like another day before we can paint them. I finished the bias binding on the stays this morning, and so all that's left is the eyelets for that one. I clenched my jaw so hard yesterday that my face hurts today, but we had a super successful trip to the op shop this morning. I didn't film it, it was very boring, but I have found our belt. So we're gonna get started on some additional accessories to really kind of tie this witch look together, and then we'll see how long that takes because it's kind of a nice day. So I might better get started on the broomstick too. Let's go be productive, yay! I've had a second coffee. It is so rare that I head to the op shop and actually find exactly what I'm looking for, but I wanted like a tool belt and I found this one. The perfect little mug to hang from my belt. And I found this bag, which is unfortunately synthetic, but we're gonna take it apart so that we can use these for attaching stuff. And I'm also gonna make a tinier bag with that. I also found a little disposable wooden spoon and I thought we could use some paint to kind of like stain this to make it look a bit darker. And I'll drill a little hole in it so this can get attached to the belt as well. So we're gonna start with, I think, trying to attach a potion bottle to the belt. I have these dried flowers that are pretty, but they smell really bad. Oh, they smell so bad. I can't find my mallet, so do you know what? I'm actually gonna turn my mic off because otherwise it's gonna bust it. I've done that before for like the rest of the audio for the day, so. I forget every single time that the banging moves the top camera. I tried making a detachable loop for the mug, but the footage of this one isn't great. That took a couple of goes. I may have destroyed one of the tools by, look, the instructions weren't particularly clear, and that one's dead. But, and this one's on a little snap, so that the mug can come off. This is so fun. Let's burn something, yeah? I have this letter sealing wax that's kind of rubbery when it dries, so I use that. I'm probably melting plastic right in front of my face, right? Pretty good. All right, so this is my plan, and it's not a very good plan, but I have some acrylic paint and some metallic, I can't remember what kind of paint, but I'm hoping that if I put these two together with some water in here, it'll kind of look like a potion, maybe? Oh no, I just realized that's enamel paint. Potions can be chunky, right? I think that I ruined that paintbrush. Anyway, I just put silver acrylic paint in instead, which is what I should have done in the first place. So I'm gonna make the most basic, haphazard, tiny little bag ever. I'm probably not even gonna put anything in it. So this is gonna be bleh. I'm now wishing that I hadn't cut into this so haphazardly. Now I made this absolutely terribly, so don't pay much attention to this bit. It just needs to have the vibe of a bag, and I think I almost achieved that. I always feel silly when I make patterns for tiny little things, and then I'm always annoyed when I don't. There was probably an easier way to do this. Look at that! Trinket belt is done. Yes. We've got some sunlight left, so I'm gonna put a hat on. I have a hat. I wasn't having the best luck in the backyard, so I headed to a park. Jackpot. The neighbours are on the other side of the fence, and their side is higher so they can see me. All right, we got a broom to make. I sorted the sticks and trimmed off excess bits so that I had some fairly straight and similar length ones, and decided to attach them to the broom handle in 2 bundles. And here's where I thought a bull ant had crawled into my pants. There were a couple wandering around this area, and normally they're chill, but I definitely felt something. Turns out it was just the trim of my hat. It didn't occur to me how much length the brush would add. I tried. Hopefully I won't overthink this too much. I'm gonna go sew some eyelets. I marked all the eyelets using the pattern and then a ruler so that they actually matched. Made all the holes with an owl, which is a stronger way of doing it than cutting holes like those grommet instructions will tell you. Then I widened the holes with a 4mm knitting needle first and then a 6mm one. I sewed a reinforcing stitch around the holes to keep them open, then a buttonhole stitch all the way around. I really wish I had sewn the eyelets before I put the boning in. It made it pretty awkward and really slowed me down. So this is how the eyelets are looking. Can I be real with you? I completely forgot about the mushrooms that I made. I was like, all right, once that corset's done, the first costume's finished. No, they are dry now though. So we're gonna coat them with a layer of Flex Bond and then we are going to paint them. Oh, come on. There we go. It's glued itself shut. I'm not just weak. Yeah, you can put little hooks in foam clay, but it just doesn't necessarily hold super well. So yeah, I'm probably going to super glue those into it because that one just tried to pull out. I tried to get a shot of them drying, but the camera once again was enamored with Lyra. There we go. Oh my gosh. We'll let these dry for about half an hour and then we can get to painting some color on them. And in the meantime, I will get back to sewing these eyelets. I lied, I had to super glue them once the Flex Bond was dry. Oh, and this is what sewing the eyelets looks like in real time. So slow. Probably a bit dustier here, like maybe it needs a bit of grey. Welcome to the very frustrating colour mixing portion of the video. Can't do it, never mind. I'll just paint with what I've got. Ugh. It's so pink, oh. What happens if I tone it down with this yellow pink? Oh, it's kind of like a flesh colour actually. Don't say what it looks like. I tried toning the pink down with some brown, but I accidentally found a good colour for the stalk instead. These look nothing like the mushrooms that inspired me. They were so cute and these, no, I dropped it in the paint. Oh, the yellow pink and the original pink makes it a dustier pink. We got there. All right, that base color is better. We're getting there. I painted some little spots on because we're totally ignoring the inspo pick now, and I realized they're still too pink against the hat, so I diluted some black paint to make a wash and tone them down further. While I waited for those to dry, I relaxed with some reading. No, wait, that can't be right. Oh, I kept sewing eyelets. That makes more sense. I pinned the mushrooms in place to figure out their layout. Just put my hand in there with all the pins sticking out. What do we think? Is it too uniform? Possibly. Can we fix it with moss? I think so. Oh my God. Okay, you know, no, I'm taking them all out. This is too dangerous. I don't know if you can hear it. There's a military helicopter running drills directly over my house. God, if it's not gardeners, it's the military, of course. What does he need? Does he want to go outside? How do you want to go outside? All right, let's see if you really do. I tried to tell him earlier that it might look sunny, but it's actually very cold. Is that nice? Yeah, I didn't think so. You are such a cat. Such a cat boy. What, do you want to go out again? But you just went out. What is this? What is this? I actually think that he wants a treasure for proving that outside still exists. Yeah? We agree? It still exists? With the hat finished, that means the classic witch is finally done. I'm lying, of course. I still have so many eyelets to sew, but we're gonna move on anyway. So that means we get to get started on the swamp witch. These are my reference images for this. This is the vibe. I want it to be imposing. It's gonna be a ton of fabric manipulation that I'm really excited for and distressing. Lots of texture. I'm a big fan of texture at the moment. I have this lovely mossy green tulle. No, khaki green. So this is like a really thin gauzy muslin. So we're going to be dyeing this one. I found in my cupboard some black gauzy muslin. I vaguely remember buying that. I have this kind of like beige jersey that I think we can use as well. Because I am, and I admit it, I am a craft hoarder. I keep all of my fabric scraps. Hang on, hang on. Lots of long little bits, which is great. They're like ready to go. Oh, hang on. Different textures, slightly shiny, matte, a variety. So we have a lot of options and we have a lot of dyeing to do. But we're using up all these scraps. It's gonna be good. I'm really excited. I'm very excited for this part of the process. I have been hanging out for it. I really like just playing with fabric. We're gonna get the mannequin out. It's gonna be a good time. Would you believe that going into this without a solid plan resulted in me actually not having a good time? We'll get to that in a minute, but for now, I sorted my scraps and removed all the seams and buttons, etc. I prepped the dye bath with I think 6 to 8 teaspoons of grey and 2 of black, thinking that would make it dark grey, and the plan was to keep this dye bath going all day. It's really hot. Can you see the steam coming off it? I don't know if you can tell, but it's really hot. So yeah, my day was basically this on repeat. And here I am pointing to let you know that one's synthetic. Good morning. First things first, wear gloves when you are dyeing your fabric. I really should just get some dishwashing gloves to use. I think we're gonna do some more dyeing today. So here's how everything's looking this morning. I really like how the linen turned out. So this was like the pink linen. It came out a really like warm gray, which is really nice. I love this green. This green is important to me. And these came out blue. So I think that these ones here, they need to be dyed black because this works a lot better if you look at these kind of colors together. So we have our mannequin here. I've got a tank top that I don't like that I think I could use as the base for the top, and we'll just figure out how to attach a skirt to that. I'm gonna get those ones back in a dye bath. So while that's going, we can finally get started on turning that into what I have pictured in my head, which is super vague. The fun thing about this dye though is it highlights where all of the pinpricks are on my fingers. Yay. So this is where things started to go downhill. I switched to this long sleeve top and tried to do this distressing method I had seen, but it turned out that the horizontal threads in this fabric were all elastane and it was super strong and just not tearing at all. I'm stressing out a little bit. I switched back to the tank top, which was 100% cotton and did work better, but really wasn't what I was picturing, so I guess I'll save this for a dystopian look. So, I have tried a long sleeve top. I have tried a tank top. I have tried to just mishmash together a skirt. Looked hideous and was really unflattering. And I think where I'm really struggling with this is I'm trying to make it just a big, shapeless, messy blob and also form-fitting and like a bit revealing. I think that a big part of it is this shouldn't be a two-piece. So I have this linen slip dress that I picked up at an op shop ages ago. I'm gonna dye this black. This sets us back like another day because I need to dye this and then let it dry. I don't think this is working. Let's do that. Yay. Good morning. Today is a new day and I think it's gonna go better than yesterday. I piled almost all of the fabric onto the mannequin just to give myself an idea of like the shape I wanted and the colors together, and I think it's pretty good. This is our linen dress base that I dyed yesterday. It's come out a really nice like warm gray color. I love it. However, the cotton muslin that I re-dyed to be black is still quite blue. I'm wondering if this is kind of like when you dye your hair, where like if you go from blonde to black, you need to put a filler color in, you need to dye it red first so that it like has a good, I don't know the science behind it, but you need to do that. Or is it like my hair in that if I use a black dye, the base is gonna be like a blue or a purple. And in order for it to not show up blue under light, I have to add in brown to get a more natural black, which is what I normally do. So for future, I think I'm gonna get myself some brown dye as well so I can mix a little bit with the black to give it like a warmer black rather than this cool blue black. So basically, I'm gonna cut some slits into this dress and we're going to make a hood cloak situation. I was initially thinking sleeves, but I don't have a pattern for it and I want it to be more of a blob shape. I'm nervous. We're gonna do our best and put some music on. The first thing I did was sew a little tuck in the armhole because this dress is a little bit big for me and it gapes. Then I cut some slits in the skirt. The dress was sewn with polyester thread, which didn't take to the dye, so I removed that from the hem and started distressing the edges. Thomas just came in and told me he brought me some Tom Donalds. You know, I'm so cute. We're making progress. Okay, so I have just tried this on to make sure that I'm happy with where the splits are, and I'm happy with that. I also don't want them to get any higher than that. So we're just gonna sew a little reinforcing stitch on that so that these don't rip further during the photo shoot. I think we want to have a little play with some of the length on these and then we're just going to start layering. And at some point I'm going to have to figure out what this cloak is. I'll make a hood pattern. I'll do it. Haha, I do not have to self-draft a hood. Okay, so hear me out. This is not one of our pre-selected fabrics, but I think like the hood should have a little bit of structure to it. I was thinking about using this like muslin fabric, but I think it's a little too fine. I immediately decided that I didn't like the hood pattern and just eyeballed my own. Then I cut out a sort of half circle cape thing. I sewed the hood pieces together and it didn't quite fit the cape neck, so I just added some pleats and then joined those pieces. I left the broom out in the rain. It's probably fine because it's made of sticks, right? That's where it was living before. Okay, so definitely not perfect. I mean, I just cut out some shapes, but I think this is a really good base for what we're going to do with it. This is itchy. I added those reinforcements to the skirt that I mentioned earlier, then I sewed some millinery wire into the edge of the hood to give it a better shape. I'm undecided on the wire. I don't know. I kind of think it helps. Me back then might have been unsure, but editing me is certain that that looks better. There we go. It does help a bit. All right, I guess she's come around. Now we're getting into it. I'm so much more comfortable with woven fabrics. I know how they behave. There's going to be a lot of tearing in this. The distressing was mostly making small cuts or holes with the unpicker or small scissors, then pulling those holes apart further with my fingers. I was quite proud of my handy little scissors holder because I needed to use them so much, but this is so stupid. That necklace was meant to be part of the costume, but on the day of the shoot, I forgot to wear it. I bought it months ago specifically for this. Let me tell you, distressing fabric takes ages, but we're getting there. Definitely needs more layers though. So let's keep going. I realized it was time to take the dress off of the mannequin. Also, I feel like this could have been a really cool transition if I wasn't in the shot. I think that at this stage I finally started hitting my stride with the Swamp Witch build. I'm not usually a more is more person and I struggle with detail, so it was a nice change to just keep adding and adding to this and trusting the process. It was also really freeing to be sewing in a purposefully messy way. I left all my knots and my stitches visible all over the place and it was awesome. I realized that there were some gaps visible when movement was introduced to the cape because of where I'd attached the strips of fabric and also the shape of the cape itself. But overall, it looks like I was happy with the progress. So I got to work filling in those gaps and adding some more distressing to those visible base fabric sections too. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but distressing fabric takes absolutely ages. Ha 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 ha. Aha! Yay! Okay, I think I am finally happy with the amount of like ghillie suit vibes that is happening here. Let's move on to the dress. So fun. It is still itchy though. First of all, with the dress, that neckline was looking way too sweet, so we had to change that. This feels a bit dangerous. I might actually put this on myself because there should be some coverage. Okay, I know this looks bad, but we have a different anatomy, me and this mannequin, and so it doesn't actually fit me like that. Trust me, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be, let's just keep going. I'm gonna be honest, it's really hard to find a segue from that topic to what I want to talk about now. I promise the timing of this spot is a coincidence. But don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It can be pretty scary to put a video out after 4 weeks. You don't know if the algorithm will show it to anyone, but that's just how long it took me to make this, and I'd rather take a bit longer to make something I'm proud of. And genuinely, I put a lot of work into this and I'm quite proud of the reveal for this one. So if you're enjoying the video, it would really help the channel if you give it a like, maybe a hype, I'm not sure that does anything, but I have heard that comments in the first 24 hours of upload can really help a video's visibility, so please drop a comment below and let me know what your current obsession is. You're creative, I know you have one. So I actually prefer it without the belt across here. It feels more fluid, but it does mean we've got some little empty patches that we need to sort out. I have some more of this linen, so I'm just gonna add a few more bits just to kind of like let these flow in. It's progressing so much quicker than the cloak. I'm so happy. Haha. So much texture and mess. So that means that it is finally time to do some airbrushing. Except that I don't own an airbrush. So what I have is some tea, coffee, hair in my mouth, an empty spray bottle that we can dilute some acrylic paint in, and don't get mad at me, spray paint. I have tested it. Luckily for me, it is a beautiful day. And so on the tulle, we get a little bit of discoloration. It worked on this synthetic jersey as well. Excuse me. All right, I've turned the autofocus off. I don't know what its problem is. The linen, no good. It like crunches up and completely lost any of its like nice texture. It has no drape anymore, so that one's a no. The wool also turned out pretty good. Focus. All right, look, it won't focus, but just trust me. The cotton gauze also is real crispy and just like holds its shape, so whatever. That means we can spray paint the cloak, but not the dress. So we have to try out some different methods, and I think we'll do those first and leave the spray painting as our last backup. It smells really good. It's making me want a cup of tea. I realized as I was dipping this in that I think this is just taking the dye out. I diluted some black and brown paint in this spray bottle, but it started getting clogged immediately. Then I flicked some paint into my eye. The audio didn't record, so I have to narrate. I got sad that this wasn't working either. Then I scared myself because I thought the dress was someone standing next to me. Okay, so while my weathering experiment attempts to dry and we figure out how we're gonna tackle it next, I'm thinking we're gonna try and just brush on some diluted acrylic paint because I was trying to avoid that, but clearly that's the only way this is gonna work for me. So in the meantime, let's talk about the hair. So I want it to, that's bothering me. So I want it to be just kind of like straggly, matted, black, swamp vibes. And so I didn't buy a wig because I don't want to buy a nice wig then to just destroy it. And I already have black, easily matted, kind of scraggly hair. So all we're gonna do is make some extensions the only way I know how. I picked up this bag of yarn at an op shop like 2 years ago and it's been living in my car. So that means it's been exposed to some high heat, so it should kill any bugs that have been in it. And we're gonna dye it black. Did you think we were done with dyeing? No, of course not. There's so much dyeing in this video. Okay, I'm kind of fed up with testing things and I guess it's just gonna be fine, whatever, because the point is it needs to look dirty and at the moment it doesn't look dirty enough. I have added some more water, so this paint is extra diluted. Let's just spray it on. I have also diluted some black acrylic paint in a bunch of water and I'm gonna brush some of that onto the ends. Ugh, hair in my mouth. And we're heading into last resort territory. On the cloak, we're also gonna do some spray paint. Let's just go for it. Love that I knew that I was getting paint on my hands, but kept going anyway. I do eventually put gloves on, partially for the sun protection because it's super sunny, which means we're heading into me complaining about the temperature and UV index season. Yay! I hope you're excited. Like I said, I resorted to just brushing the diluted paint on and wouldn't you know it, that worked great. Now that I look at it, I'm not sure that an airbrush would be any quicker. It probably just has that really smooth result that looks super professional, you know? So yesterday when I was doing the weathering out in the sun, I was like, this is just so subtle and I started getting like really heavy-handed with it. And it turns out that I was just getting blinded by the sun. This is not subtle weathering. It's turned out pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. Also, I desperately need to wash my hair, but I'm considering just leaving it for the photo shoot because I want it to be kind of gross. We'll see how long I last. Speaking of hair though, so it turns out we had two kinds in there and this one has gone black, but this one has stayed gray, which means that it had something other than wool mixed into it. What is it? If it's not wool that it didn't take to the dye, it's an awesome color and I'm really happy with it. But I am thinking that I'm gonna use this one for hair and this I'm gonna use to add some additional texture to the shoulders. Doesn't this look cool? I really like this, but also I really want this to be a bit more imposing. Like I want the shoulders to feel a bit more like meh, you know? So what I'm gonna do is we are going to add just a bit of this black on top of here too, just to add some additional zhuzh. I could use this as hair as it is. I think locks look awesome. However, the vibe that we're going for is like dirty and matted, and that's not what locks are. Right? I started pulling it apart. I'm wearing black, so you can't see. But yeah, that's the plan. I think it should be pretty quick and easy. Let's do all those things I just talked about. I don't know why I introduced them all at once, but let's go. I had to keep trying this on to make sure I liked the placement of the gauze. If I had more space, I'd consider a mannequin with a head because it would make these costumes so much easier. Of course, we had a bit more weathering to do, but it didn't take me too long. Onto the hair, and this was surprisingly straightforward. I couldn't find enough bobby pins to attach these to my hair, which was lucky because it meant I needed to make it into a halo style extension, which is so much easier to put on. I separated the strands without cutting them, so this wool can always be spun back together if I ever learn how to do that. I made them into varying lengths, and when I felt like I had enough, I laid them all out and fed some tiger tail jewelry making wire through the centers and closed it up with a crimp. See, this is where the craft hoarding comes in handy because of course I just had those lying around from like 20 years ago. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, I definitely put it on wrong. I'm glad there's a hood. You know what it's giving? Bertha from Jane Eyre. The dress is adding to it, but I feel like this is giving like, my husband locked me up. Next step is nails. Let me just say right out the gate, I don't think this is gonna work. And excuse my hot water bottle, we're having a bad tummy day. We're having a bad tummy week, to be honest. Oh, some birds are using the bird bath. Oh, it's a bird I haven't seen. Okay, I need to identify what this bird is. What are you? I guess it's like the size of a minor bird, like it's quite small. What is this? I've tried Googling it and I can't figure it out. I see you there. Oh, look at him in the bar. Finally, I'm gonna be able to identify that bird. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, this isn't gonna work. So I bought hard gel from a nail supply place. I have the UV lamp. I also got builder in a bottle. I also got these Talon nail forms, which I somehow forgot to mention. So let's see if we can even get this gel off of these forms. I have a feeling these are lies. I may have been scammed. There's another one. It's got speckles on its tummy. I got footage of that bird, Thomas, the new one. Olay got it completely wrong. There's only one sign of aging, and it's a sudden interest in bird watching. Oh my God, it's so sticky. Is it normally this sticky? All right, so we've got a thin layer. What if we just, oh God, I hate this. If it is, how do you put it on the fingernail? So I have these ombre sprays, which appear to be like a powder. I'm gonna try spraying it inside the nail. I wanted to make these as press-ons to, you know, press on later. So I pushed a regular press-on nail into the gel while it was still wet and then cured it. Let's have a go. Oh, and so look at that. The plastic nail just like popped right out. I made a claw nail. I am shocked. But yeah, I should be able to just attach them directly on. I thought I needed to put a false nail in, but I just need to press the shape with it. Right? I love them so much. I figured out a system to it where I did a layer of builder in a bottle top coat, cured it, then did a second coat plus black then white ombre spray, cured it, then did a couple of layers of the hard gel and pressed the regular false nail into it, then finished off with filing and cleaning with nail polish remover. That part's important, otherwise it won't adhere to your nail, and yeah, it's a slow process and there's a lot of waiting and watching YouTube involved. So I just had a fun little inception moment. I'm working on my project while watching Morning Mercury work on her project, while she watches me work on my project. It's super weird making YouTube videos. If you haven't watched her Telltale Heart video yet, you just gotta go do it after this. Once I finished the nails, and because I simply do not know when to call it with this project, I decided that my Swamp Witch needed a Swamp Witch lamp, so I proceeded to make one more prop, ruining one of my favorite drinking jars in the process. We had to eat so many pickles to get that jar. Anyway, I worked really hard on this project and I hope it shows. Please enjoy the reveal.
Thanks, Mads. Do you want a bite? Sure.